To another edition of Code with Sheriff interviews, where we interview those behind the scenes who do the actual coding of the software we use. In today's interview, I have a special guest with me, all the way from California in the United States. 4 years ago, our guest today was at Microsoft as a senior software engineer before he joined Amazon, where he worked as a software development engineer. That was between 2018 and 2020. Our guest today is an experienced full stack software engineer with over 13 years in the industry, where he writes code ranging from front end and back end codes. He currently works at Google as a software engineer. I'm glad to introduce to you Mr. Muhammad Hasan Khan. How are you, Muhammad Hasan Khan?
Alhamdulillah, I'm really good. And Jazakallah khair for inviting me to your show.
Thank you very much. To start with, could you please tell us which is your first name and which is your last name? So, Muhammad Hasan Khan. So you have three names.
Yeah, in our culture, we have a family name before the first name and after. So my name is Hasan, and Muhammad and Khan are my family names.
Thank you for that. So quickly, we're going to start with asking about how you came about software development, your experience or your journey into software development before you joined Microsoft.
I started programming when I was a kid. So is that what you want to know? Like how I got into programming?
Right.
Yeah, just when I was a kid, I had a console, and it was primarily for playing games, but it had this one programming language called GBasic, and there was a keyboard attached to the console that you could use to type programs on it. So that was the first thing I learned, which is programming, and then from then on, I got a computer and started learning more languages, GW Basic, Visual Basic, and others, and started making programs. And after that, I did my bachelor's in software engineering. So that's how it all started.
Interesting. Okay, so then you went to school. After school, you started working with different organizations, right?
Yeah. I worked for a few companies back in Pakistan, and then I went to Bahrain, and then Netherlands, and then came to US.
Okay. So how did you join Microsoft at first?
How did I join Microsoft? When I was in Netherlands, somebody told me about an opportunity in Microsoft that the hiring manager had posted on Twitter. So I applied. I sent the hiring manager my resume, and they shortlisted it. Interviewed me online and offered me job, and then they did all the visa and everything, and I went to the US.
So you worked at Microsoft. So you were a software developer at Microsoft, and so what were like your experience over there? What was the things you were doing over there?
In Microsoft, I went to join Azure. One of the teams in Azure is called Azure Mobile Services. At that time, I don't know if the product is still there. So Alhamdulillah, it was great learning experience. I worked with a lot of smart people. I worked with the guys who had worked on ASP.NET framework, so the core team, and I was a big fan of ASP.NET back then. So it was a great learning experience. I had opportunity to work with that product, and then API management was another product that I worked on. And then I worked in Microsoft Outlook, web and desktop, and basically it's just whatever part of the products that I worked on was always very collaborative and very friendly atmosphere. It's a lot to learn.
So, but then why then did you leave Microsoft and went to Amazon?
Amazon. I just got an opportunity in Amazon, and well, I think it was good for my technical growth. I had been working Microsoft for 4.5 years, so it was a good point to move on and do something different. I had been a Microsoft developer for a long time, and working in Amazon, I would get opportunity to work on completely different stack and solve different kinds of problems. So I went for it.
Okay, so do you have a particular tech stack in which you choose to work with, or the company decide the tech stack you work with?
I've not confined myself to any one stack. Yeah, so what I was saying that I focus on the problem, not the stack. Whatever stack is being used to solve that problem, I use it. Right now, I'm working in an operating system, so I have to work in C++. There's parts in Java, some parts in Go language. There's some HTML there also, JavaScript. So I think as an engineer, it's more important for us to focus on what problem we're solving rather than what stack we're working on. Like, stack is just the mean to that end. The end goal is to solve problems and build things, right? So whatever
Okay.
is being used, uh, I use it.
So here in Nigeria, we have a number of people who are interested in software development, and we even have a number of software engineers. And in my own team here, we have about a lot of people learning software development. What can you tell them about how to go about becoming a great software engineer and to be able to fit into these organizations?
Okay, there are two parts to it. One is that what you can do. The other part is what organization we get into is purely in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where he gives us opportunity, we go there, right? So there could be a lot of things that we can do and still not get the opportunity because the risk comes from him, right? And he's the one who provides. So as far as what's in our hand, there are basically two things. One is that being good on data structures and algorithms is important for being able to clear the interview. Okay, and that requires a lot of practice and studying uh, the basics. So that's like there's a bare minimum a person has to do in order to clear the interview. In order to get shortlisted, we need to have a good resume. Okay? And writing a good resume, you'll find a lot of articles that you can read and learn how to write it properly, how to demonstrate your impact, and how to state what the work you've done. And just in general, they prefer generalists most of the time, and people who have experience in working in distributed systems or large scale problems. So things like that, when you mention on your resume, it increases your chances of being shortlisted and getting their attention. Mentioning like 11, 12 frameworks a person has worked in is not very useful. Like, for example, you will not find many job postings on big companies that are saying we are looking for a bootstrap developer, right? Or Vue developer or React developer. This is not how they hire. They hire people, and they would, if you read their job descriptions, usually very generic. They were looking for software developer passionate about working on large scale systems and things like that, right? So and frameworks and shift the attention towards solving problems. If you're building your resume, right, and how does one build their resume? It's basically that when they're choosing their next job, this is one of the important factors they have to consider. Okay, we all want a good package, good money, good environment, all of that. But one of the most important things that we have to consider is deciding where to go, making a website with a shopping cart on it, and doing the same thing over and over in different companies, maybe getting a better package and whatnot. It's not actually building my resume, right? So it's important to focus what I'm doing. Is it any different than from what I've done before? Is it a bigger problem, more ambiguous problem? How will I demonstrate that in my jobs? So try to pick on bigger problems. Try work on bigger problems. Try to own a feature, maybe own a product. Launching be one of the leadings in having some capacity to lead the design. Things like that. When you mention on your resume, they look good. And other than that, system design, data structure algorithms. System design is something that you learn with experience. So if you've not been designing systems or solving bigger problems or writing bigger features, your system design skills will not improve. Reading books and articles is fine, but without practical experience, it's not easy to put that knowledge into right context and use it for solving problems, especially in an interview. If a person has not had a lot of experience in solving problems, then it's difficult to come up with the right answers, even if a person has learned a lot of theory. So reading theory is important, but practical experience is important. Focus on building your resume by doing interesting projects, and that might require you to change your job also. And you can also do your own side projects as open source projects, or publish something on App Store. Doing all of that is great. I just want to remind that there is nothing that you can do alone that will guarantee you a person being hired in any one of the big companies. Always this.
Wow. Thank you very much. So that means we have to build interesting projects. So that is very essential. And at the same time, we need to work on our CVs, resumes, so that it can stand out and actually tell more about what we know. Okay, so please tell us about how you joined Google from Amazon and your current experience at Google now.
Google, same thing. Recruiters reached out to me, um, and I attempted uh, interviewing with them a couple of times. I did not clear the interview, and Alhamdulillah, finally, in my last attempt, I was able to clear the interview by the mercy of Allah, and then I got hired, and I am working in Chrome OS right now.
Wow. Okay, I have one question that may seem to be a bit personal, but it's going to expose a lot of things to us. It's going to tell us how we too can learn from your own experience. And this is, how do you manage work and family together? Because as a software developer, we believe that you write a lot of code, it takes a lot of your time. You have to maybe morning, evening, and night, you keep working on your computer. And considering the fact that you have a family there, you have a wife, you have a child, how do you handle such?
I, Alhamdulillah, I've been in the industry for a while now. When I was a student, I've done a lot of work. When I was a student, obviously, there was no official work or job. So I was spending my weekends and my nights writing code and making programs. I did a lot of effort there. But after that, Alhamdulillah, things you know, have been becoming easier. And I don't think it's healthy for a person to be working at night and day, especially when they have a family, because family suffers. And that's one of the, we don't exist just to work, right? So everything has to be balanced. work has specific hours, like 9 to 5, unless there is some problem that we have to handle, something urgent. It should be rare, not a routine that we have to work late. So I have fixed hours. I work during those hours. Unless there's something urgent or important, I don't work outside of those hours. Then there is personal learning time, family time. I spend time with family on the weekends. I don't take on, extra projects, for the financial reasons. I don't take any other engagements. There's some side open source work that I'm doing once in a while, but I think it's important to give adequate amount of time to family, and especially when we have kids and they're young, they need attention. And so, yeah, basically, I keep it balanced, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah for that. And we've learned from that also. And maybe on the final note, I should ask this. We have new developers, and a lot of them get tired on the way. And at some point, they feel like, how are we going to learn as much as these different programming languages? What can you say as a word of encouragement to these people?
They get tired of what? They get tired of learning
Okay,
or what?
learning, yes, learning different languages, or yeah,
Okay. See, in our field, in software development, it's important to know that learning is never going to end, right? Because things keep changing. Even the programming language keeps changing. Every year you have new features coming in, and if new frameworks coming in, you're solving different kinds of problems. So if a person does not like learning, then that's going to be very difficult for them to survive in this career. Learning is something a person has to love for in order to thrive in this career. Now, that's one thing, but if we keep chasing frameworks for the sake of chasing them, it will become exhausting. So I think it's a mistake for a person to just collect frameworks and languages on their resume. Uh, some people have this impression that I have the more languages and frameworks I mentioned, the more my resume looks good. I don't think that's true. Okay.
okay,
There are basically two kinds of companies. There are product companies and there are consultancy companies. Consultancy companies are those that do projects for other companies, right? They get online projects and whatever, outsourced projects are. Those kind of companies usually look for developers in specific languages and frameworks, right? They probably say, we are looking for a React developer or Angular developer or whatnot. For that kind of companies, a developer has to basically learn the language that's in the market or framework that's in the market, and they usually capitalize on that. If you're looking for a job in a product company, the specific language and framework usually does not matter. Obviously, there are exceptions to the general rule, but there what matters more is whether you're able to solve problems, build things, right? And you can mention whatever you did in whichever language. And then your focus is solving specific kinds of problems, and you pick up whatever you need to learn in order to solve that problem. But it's not scalable to just run after everything that comes out. If you read the news, you'll have every day some new framework or language coming in.
yes,
Learning for the sake of learning is not helpful. Just aimlessly chasing every new thing that's coming out is not helpful and it's exhausting. So I think developers should focus on having specific goals. What am I trying to accomplish? Either I'm trying to learn something that's hot in the market, and those things don't change every day. Like
yeah.
for some time, at least for a year or two, you'll have one framework that's hot and you have jobs for that. So you focus on that if you want to work in consultancy companies. But if
Oh,
you're working in product companies, You don't go around chasing frameworks. You just make sure that you're able to clear interviews with good knowledge of data structure and algorithms, and just focus on solving problems.
Okay, thank you very much. Hassan, that's a first name, right? Okay, and a number of companies, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, if you get an offer from any of these companies, you seem to have a deep knowledge of data structure and algorithm, irrespective of the number of frameworks or programming languages you know. So do you think that this is actually very important before a candidate can be hired in any of these organizations?
Knowledge of data structural algorithms is essential for clearing the interview. And if a person has not studied or practiced, it's very difficult to clear the interview. This is important to know. Anybody who's planning to apply in these companies, they have to prepare for the interview, and that involves studying data structures and algorithms and solving problems either on lead code or doing mock interviews or however a person wants to do it. But writing code is important in order to solve, in order to practice the knowledge.
Now that new developers are listening to us, do you think that new developers should learn algorithm and data structure before they start learning major programming languages?
They have to learn to code first. Uh, you know, once they know how they can translate their thoughts into code, learning data structure and algorithms comes later. I don't think any new developer who doesn't even understand programming should be focused on getting hired in one of the big companies or whatever. This is not the right mindset to have. Why? Because you will not be satisfied with anything else you get in the meanwhile. There's so many people who apply in these companies and they don't get an opportunity to even get interviewed, right? So that shouldn't be a focus because results are not in our hand. I keep on emphasizing this. Results are in the hand of Allah. We should focus on, first of all, building ourselves, which is learning languages, not languages. If somebody is just new to programming, then they learn one language, whatever, but it doesn't matter which language it is. They should just pick one language, learn how to translate their thoughts into code, solve problems, make small programs, get used to, thinking in code. After that, they can learn data structural algorithms to learn better ways of writing code, solving problems efficiently. And then they can use these to clear the interviews, and they should also build programs and projects to demonstrate to their potential employers that they can build something. Focus on doing their best work wherever they get a job. And then, inshallah, once they have good experience, they can apply in different companies and be grateful for wherever they get the job, whether it's a big company, small company, medium-sized company.
Thank you. So we have learned majorly that we should get used to thinking in code from
Yeah.
from Stan. Thank you very much for your time. I would like us to drop the curtain at this point here so that you can start your day. Oh, today is Sunday. I think you have free time to spend with family today. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. And I really appreciate, and we have learned a number of things. I'm going to share this among my colleagues and our group here, and so that a lot of people can learn from you. And I also enjoy a number of all your posts on LinkedIn. They are very beneficial. Thank you very much for posting them, and please keep it up, and because we are enjoying them over here. Jazakumullah khairan for that.
Jazakallah khair for inviting. It was a pleasure speaking to you. And I hope this conversation was of benefit. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to message me on LinkedIn and we can discuss any problem you may be having in your career. And once again, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.